Welcome, everyone. We are now at 6:29 1/2. Thought we'd get started 30 seconds early, just to make it an early night, maybe. We're here for the City Council work session agenda, Monday, October the 7th, and it's now 6:30. On the roll call, everyone's present except for Bill Duvall, who is sick tonight, but he anticipates being back on Thursday night. And we need a motion to approve the agenda, please. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. We'll move, hang on to your seats, we'll move right on back into Planning and Development Committee. Lisa Newberry.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to ask Paul if he will explain to us the legalities of whether we need to or should do the public hearing tonight.
These items were tabled for y'all's consideration back at the September meeting. So you had your full public hearing at the September work session on the Monday evening, and then it came before you for your consideration, and then y'all tabled it. So there's no need for an additional public hearing. Actually, there's really been, well, 3, maybe even 4 public hearings on this one at this time. So you've more than sufficiently satisfied the public hearing requirement. Mayor and council, of course, are more than welcome to have any discussion, speak with the developer, do anything you want to do, but there's no need for a formal public hearing.
Okay, and if there's anyone from the public that wants to speak, they can do so at the end of the meeting.
That's also correct.
Correct. Okay. Okay. All right, so we will go right into it and invite the applicant to come up and tell us what's changed.
Is that on?
I think so.
Mayor, Council, Shane Lanham, 1550 North Brown Road, Suite 125 in Lawrenceville. Thanks for the opportunity to come before you again tonight on the Tuck Farm development that, as Mr. Rosenthal mentioned, we've had multiple discussions about before tonight. What I want to do is really just, I'll jump right into it. And so last month we were tabled to make some further revisions to the site plan. There was also a specific comment from the father-in-law of a neighbor, Mr. and Mrs. Green, owned property next to us adjacent to Destination Park. Mr. Bailey, father of Mrs. Bailey, or Mrs. Green, was here and relayed some comments from them that we had discussions. I'm being more wordy about this than I need to, but we told them we'd keep townhomes away from their house, and the plan that we showed last month had them a little closer than they liked. And so what we did, and really this was a major lift from the engineering side. There we go. On. Here we go. All right, so this is just going through some old site plans. You can see over to the left side is where the Green property is. Here is this sort of theoretical PUV that we presented last month, where we had the mix of the lot sizes but kept that average of 9,000 square feet. And you can see there was that pot of townhomes over on the left-hand side. That was part of the objection from Mr. and Mrs. Green, relayed by Mr. Bailey. And so what we've done was answer that, really. And that, candidly, that took a lot of effort on our engineers' side to move that entire pod of townhomes from the west side of the property back over to the east towards the commercial. We like that a lot better. It was somewhat difficult to achieve. We like it a lot better. We think it makes a lot more land planning sense to have, there's a creek that separates us, but there's commercial, then we get into the townhome pod, we have our town green, and then you step down to single family detached in the subject property in that white area, and then you step down further going to the Green property and up Tuck Road and Destination Park. So a little bit of detail. There remains, per code, a 30-foot buffer in between the subject property and adjacent residential uses. We provided a strip of land, which does include a walking trail per previous discussions to connect to the park, but that strip in between that row of lots on the western side of the property is wide. It's about 150 feet wide or wider along that whole strip. So there's significant separation in between the rear of those lot lines and that adjacent green property and where the park is. So that took us a lot of effort. We sent over, I think, 2 versions of an updated site plan. I think those may have both come in today or even Thursday or Friday. One of them came in today. I think another one was Thursday or Friday last week. And just candidly, we are ironing out the math in the table in the bottom right hand of that site plan. But at a high level, the PUV gives us some pretty strict parameters. And there are the first, step in designing your PUV, determining your land use mix and your density is calculating your land use mix. So the PUV provides that a maximum of the project can be single-family detached residential, a maximum of 15% townhomes, a maximum of 20% commercial. So if you're following along in the math, that gets us to 80, and then a minimum of 20% for open space. So you've got 3 maximums and then a minimum. What that means is there's not a lot of give and take among those unless the give is from single-family, townhome, or commercial giving to open space. That's really about the only way that it goes. So you end up with more than 20% open space on really every way that you calculate these land uses. So that's what we did. We calculated that land use mix, and then we've gone through and started making those exclusions per code of infrastructure to get to that buildable area. And that tells us, those calculations that we have to make per code tell us what the maximum density is. We have, worked to stay within the unit counts that were presented to Planning Commission and then presented to council, the last few times that we've been here. And that's been important for us, is to stay at that unit count that we showed to the Planning Commission and not go above that. We've had to reorganize. I mean, there have been, I think, 16 or 17 versions of this site plan working through the process. But this is where we are tonight. We're confident in this layout. We think this makes good land use sense. We think it'll pass muster under the ordinance and through the permitting process. But wanted to bring it to you here tonight, show you where we are. Of course, we'd be happy to answer any questions, hear any comments that y'all have. So that being the case, I'll conclude my presentation there and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Shane, I'll start with this. When you were talking previously about the connectivity between Walmart and Publix, I was just kind of wondering what drives that, and tell me more about the walking trail, what it's going to look like, the lighting, how safe is it going to be, how the HOA is going to possibly maintain it.
Yes, ma'am. So on the current version of the site plan, we've got a walking trail that shows a connection from the subject property, crosses over the creek, and connects to that commercial area. I think it's further north, so closer up to I think that's the Walmart side. We have to make a creek crossing, and the way we have it designed right now, the way we've been thinking about it, and the way that I think the Planning Commission recommended, that would be a nature trail. And I think the Planning Commission motion, and I know that that's a recommending body, y'all are the council, y'all make the decision, but the way that we were envisioning it was a nature trail. And I think part of that discussion was, a desire to try to keep it a natural area, not be too invasive. There's a creek crossing that we have to make, so having a creek crossing in a, nature trail sense is less invasive and easier to accomplish than if you were talking about a 12-foot wide multi-use path type of creek crossing. So to answer your question, we've got a nature trail along the eastern side of the property and making a connection back to that shopping along over by the Walmart and Publix, and then another walking trail connecting to Destination Park. I think we're flexible on those trail materials. I think if the city had a strong preference that those, at least the Destination Trail or Destination Park Trail, for that to be paved or X feet wide, I don't know that we've got a strong, we're happy to kind of take the city's direction in that sense. We think that we can achieve that pedestrian connectivity, that interaction with either way, and so we're a bit agnostic.
Have you guys talked to Walmart and Publix about that? Are they agreeing to that?
I don't know if y'all have had specific discussions with them or not.
No, ma'am.
Yep.
So we don't even know yet if they would,
We're not encroaching the property.
Right, so we would have, the way we've got it designed right now is that we would provide a stub to the property line, and it's a pretty long property line. I mean, it's a few hundred feet, so there's a lot of opportunities to do that. We are optimistic, very optimistic, that they're going to like that connectivity, because now they've got a subdivision right next door to them where people can walk over and do some shopping. So we think that they'll warmly receive that. But I think, as Ross was saying, we haven't gotten into, exact location or design or things like that. And a lot of times, we've seen this when you're dealing with some of those large national entities. They don't like talking about hypotheticals. They like talking about like a real, thing, right? So we think that once, or, if the zoning were approved and we have a project, that they would, that would catch their attention a little more, and they'd be more willing to have those discussions.
okay. And then the amenity package you talked about at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I know we've talked about pickleball. I've seen dog parks, splash pads, 1 pool, 2 pools. So what did y'all end up with in an amenity package?
Yes, ma'am. So we've got, I think their recommendation was to have 2 amenity packages. We've got one in the middle of the townhomes. You can see a green rectangle inside of the blue townhome area. That includes a pool and a pavilion. And then over to call it the southwest side of the property, over where the single-family detached residential meets up with the commercial on Tuck Road, we have another amenity area over there. And I think that would be similar programming. You could do some of those sport courts over there. I don't know if y'all decided on an exact number of.
There's plenty of land for us to make it 2 pickleball courts, 2 tennis courts, multiple use. That's where we located the mail kiosk as well, so it's centrally located for all residents right there.
Yep. And to that point, so just working off of what the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended, they say minimum of 2 community swimming pools. We're fine with that. If council wanted to have more specific requirements or X number of pickleball, we're open to all of that. We have some room on the site to make those things happen.
Where is the second pool?
So I think it would be located over in that area in between the single-family residential and where the commercial is. I think right now it's just drawn as like amenity center with a mail kiosk.
It's right here.
Okay. And then did you say this is there an enclosed building for the HOA to meet?
Yep, you could put those, so the pavilion inside of the townhome area, you could, that's a location where that would work. Again, in that white area in between the commercial and the single-family residential, we've got labeled as amenity center with the kiosk. It can go there. There's a lot of opportunity to satisfy that requirement. And I think that's the thing here. The conditions say do X, and we can do X, and we've got it sketched out here on the plan where we think that'll work.
Okay, and the last question I have is that one of the work sessions, Green Rivers told us that you would develop the residential, but you would bring in a partner for the commercial. So do you guys know yet who the commercial partner is?
We don't have
It's a
any.
lot of commercial, I'm just,
Yes, ma'am. We don't have anyone signed up yet because we haven't gotten blessing, but there's a few. Mr. Swopes is one. We're partnered up with him in Winder on a Kroger Center, and he's interested. But yeah, they like to know it's a real deal before they commit.
okay, that's all I have, Brandon.
I know y'all said y'all are still playing around with the numbers, and so y'all's average lot size would be 9,000 square feet.
Yes, yeah, we could commit to that 9,000, and yeah, that includes all of that, single-family detached residential area, average of 9,000, that's right.
All right, and I know the frontages are a good bit different too. You go all the way from 50 to 140. That's something we're gonna need to have like an average on as well? Or is it just gonna be based off of the square feet?
Say that question one more time.
If we do an average lot size, because we're gonna obviously have to do a variance of some kind to allow this within our
Yeah.
PUV with the
So-
9,000 square feet, well, we need to have one for the frontage.
Yes, I don't know what the frontage is. I just know the lot size minimum is 9,000, so you would have to, that'd be a zoning condition y'all would have to make. Robbie, what's the lot width?
I thought it was 75 feet for a PUV. I could be wrong about that.
I don't know if it has a lot width.
So that would be a separate variance that that they haven't put in an application for?
We'd have to do like an average lot width or frontage or something like that.
What's the space
Or if you think we
between
just do it with the
houses?
9,000 square feet
You know?
and the frontage works out to whatever that works out to. I don't want to,
I mean, y'all have got the flexibility to vary these conditions if you so choose. I mean, I think the one that you stay stuck to is the density, right? So your densities are the things that you'll always see is can't exceed the density. But in terms of the metrics of the sizing of these lots, you've got the flexibility. If you want to make it a zoning condition, that there's averages or those sort of things, y'all have got that flexibility on these PUVs.
okay, so it would be for lot size and for frontage.
Yeah, but not your overall density, like
Yeah.
maximum density, I think it's 3.1. Those are your numbers that that you don't want to, that you can't vary just by condition.
All right. I do like this plan a good bit more. I do like how it's the pedestrian center around those two buildings in the main retail center as well. My only real worry there is with that road crossing right there, people are gonna be going from the park to that pedestrian zone. That might get a little tricky, because I know curbs and all that lead to more people getting hit.
I say we block it off and make it pedestrian only.
Just go all the way to the green with that pedestrian only thing.
That's our goal with that, is to have a place where parents can enjoy, you know, a cocktail or a cup of coffee and let the kids play and not worry about cars
Play out in the
traversing.
green.
And that was, you know, 30 days sounds like a lot, but when you're doing what we've done to this and touching it so many times, you miss details.
Yeah. No. I
And
figured that might
it's
have been
all
the
out of
case.
goodwill. I mean, I think you can tell we're definitely excited to get this done.
Just a safety thing that I noticed. I appreciate it.
So under single-family site design, there is no width. It says, single-family detached shall consume no more than 45%, 3.1 units per acre, 9,000 square foot lot minimum. Then it jumps into townhomes. That
Okay.
is section G, 1 through 3.
I'm just lost.
And just a note, we've actually gotten up to 10,000 feet average on this plan.
Melanie, might as well.
So we're pulling something new, we're going in order here? Wow,
Just worked out that way.
I guess. I know a lot of concern is about aesthetics and layout and things like that, but for me, a lot of this is about the infrastructure. So our staff report states that the water and sewer are not adjacent to the property. Now, I know that was from when you did your original application, I think in July, is that correct?
I think we filed in April or May.
April.
Is
So
that right?
has
We may have had our-
anything changed on that? Because at that time, our staff report stated that water and sewer are not adjacent to the property. It also states that our pump station will need an upgrade. And I don't know if I'm not mistaken, there's not any kind of study on waste generation that this project overall will complete. And so do you have any idea?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you there. So relative to the utilities, it's our understanding that there are water and sewer lines in the vicinity of the property. We know that there's a pump station nearby, I think just, if not adjacent to the property, sort of just across that creek. We're well aware that if current infrastructure will not accommodate the development, then we, as the developer, would have to get involved and participate in certain upgrades to make it work. And that's typical in development. If we, you know, for example, if we needed to extend a sewer line to get to the property, those are the types of improvements that we'd be prepared to partner on and accomplish to make this development work. So it's our understanding that overall at sort of the plant, and we know we've got at least one pump station to go through to get there, but it's our understanding that there's healthy capacity at the plant, and we may be talking about specific pump station upgrades to get to the treatment plant. But we've had preliminary discussions with the utilities folks, and sort of we understand, you know, some of the boundary lines there that we'll have to face, which, you know, is a big part of that, you know, engineering work in the permitting side of things. So once you get past the land use question of just, is this mix of uses, is this number of units appropriate on the property, then, you know, the lawyers leave, people like me leave, and the smart people come in and start figuring out, all right, well, the land use has been decided by the policymakers. Now it's time for us to do the engineering work to make the connections and make sure that, and prove to the city that capacity exists and the pump stations will handle it and that sort of thing. And that's why we have to go through those permitting steps. Relative to, there was a second part of your question, and it was relative to, what was it? Give me a reminder. That was a two-parter.
I mean, yeah, if you had any idea of your capacity, because this is
Yes.
a lot of commercial, and commercial is gonna use as much or more water than the residential. And
So that, it depends on the commercial use, you know, so like a restaurant use, some commercial uses will have, you know, higher water demand. Some of those retail type uses, you know, boutique, a dress shop, things like that are not gonna use as much water. Residential uses a lot. That's probably the main driver of water and then necessarily sewer demand. But yeah, it's all part of, you know, we have to get water from the city and we have to discharge wastewater into the city's, you know, infrastructure. And in order for the city to give us permission to do that, we have to demonstrate that there's capacity in that infrastructure network, you know,
Right.
for us to use.
And so you just hit on one of my other issues is water, because Loganville kind of has a little problem. We can no longer buy water from Gwinnett County, and we get our water from Monroe. And I'm going to refer back to our executive director of the Development Authority of Walton County back in May of 2022. There was an online discussion involving Loganville becoming the next Gwinnett County, the overgrowth, and so forth. And Mr. Short, who I respect highly, made the comment that Loganville is in both Gwinnett and Walton, and only half the city can support dense growth. Loganville doesn't even have enough water to support itself. It has to buy water from Monroe. It says our sewer capacity is extremely limited, and Loganville is not all of Walton County, and the vast majority of our county is on septic tanks, which means people have to buy larger lots. And I'll also refer to a comment made by our Walton County Commissioner, David Thompson, also in 2022. We had a 10-day dry spell, and the county peaked at water consumption from Cornish Creek for 3 days. And I just want to be responsible to the people that may live there, the people that already live in Loganville, if we're putting an extra burden on our water source, because I know they're going to probably be looking at building, if they haven't already started, the new Hard Labor Creek water reservoir. But I think, you know, sometimes it's irresponsible to put the cart before the horse. And should the water resources dry up, and not only do your residents not have water, but the people of Loganville don't have water, that's a big concern for me, is the water. And as far as the sewer, what is our current capacity of the sewer plant?
Permit to 3.3 million gallons, and we're probably using 1.2 million, 1.5.
So we're about half capacity.
We're
And
going to capacity, yeah.
do what now?
We're good.
Okay.
At the plant. Now, the pump stations are different, so they'll have to be a
Right,
study.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about our actual overall capacity. And if we have a couple of other large projects that we'll be talking about in the next couple of months coming on, and all of this is going to be hitting at the same time, and this being a large project, I would really kind of like to have a ballpark idea of what that sewer capacity looks like.
So fair question. We have to go through not only the permitting process, you know, with the city who controls its water and sewer infrastructure, This was actually part of this application process. This was a DRI, so that means we had to submit those DRI information forms, which were submitted to the Regional Commission, neighboring jurisdictions, Gwinnett County, Walton County. I think maybe another city was included in that. I'm not sure if it went up to Grayson or not, but there was regional review done for this project, and part of that is what does the infrastructure look like? So there's, you know, I'm not aware of any comments or concern that were submitted in relation to the DRI, which does address those, you know, region-wide infrastructure aspects.
Danny, you want to address the water? I think you should.
Yeah, I mean, not panic, we have water. We have a permit up to 3 million from Monroe. We're currently taking 1 million from them per day. We have 2 other take points from Walton County that we take the remaining water. Walton County has hit peak points with capacity. That's not just Loganville, that's the entire county. We are able to get from Gwinnett. We do currently have a contract still with Gwinnett. We just get off their system because it's a little bit more expensive. We have water. Monroe has water to sell. We can take up to 3 million gallons if we need to.
And
Per
the
contract.
water treatment plant for the county is coming online.
I don't want to answer
Whenever
that
they
because I
get it
have no
done.
idea. I just know where we get our water from Monroe primarily, and then
That's right.
we have 2 other additional take points from Walton County. And we have 2 other additional take points from Gwinnett County. But water is, I agree with Melanie, it's a crucial part of it. And if we didn't have water, then we'd have more things to worry about than this development.
And to that point, I think at a total of 385 units, I'm not sure what the city likes using for gallons per day on water, 200, 250, thereabouts. If you do 385 units times 250 gallons a day, that's 96,000 gallon a day. And if there's a permit for, sounded like 3 million gallons on sewer and similar on water, and we're only at about half of that, this is less than 100,000. Just on the residential side, you'd have to add in the commercial, but it's likely not to be too much more than that. But I think what I'm hearing, and I'm not an engineer, I am just a zoning attorney, but what it sounds like is we're sort of comfortably within the city's current capacity.
I think this is a question for you, Danny. If this gets annexed in, then we provide water and sewer for the entire development. It wouldn't be that they get their water since they're in Gwinnett County. How does that work?
Yes, so there is an area that would belong to Gwinnett County. We have been in contact with Gwinnett County, with their attorney. I've spoke with the county manager, and they have assured us that we'll work this out with an IGA, that we would be able to provide the water. Sewer's already ours, it's the water. It's the portion on the Gwinnett side, I believe it's 22 acres, I believe. Is that correct? About 22 acres that we would have to do an IGA to say that we could provide water, because the current SDS states that Gwinnett is the provider of water.
And then the school situation, will it be divided? Will the children that live in Gwinnett County will go to the Gwinnett County schools? They
As far
won't
as I
come to
know,
the city?
correct. Yes.
Okay, all right. I probably have more questions, but I'll pass it on to Ann. Apparently.
I only have one question. You said earlier that you will participate in infrastructure upgrades should the pump need, or the plant need be upgraded, or the pump station. Do you have a limit on what you're willing to participate on?
I think we're happy to try to come up with a number there. I'm not sure, I can't remember that pump station's capacity and what the latest upgrades that you would do to it off the top of my head, to be candid. But, you know,
It would be limited to the pump station, whatever upgrades to the pump station. In other words, we can't build a sewer treatment plant, but we can upgrade the pump station. And our understanding is, with the upgrade, it would take our capacity, no problem. In other words, it's bigger fans.
And I use plant and pump station interchangeably for that, so I apologize. But you are willing to upgrade the pump station as necessary to handle the capacity of this project?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a requirement. That's a requirement.
So just put it on the record, talking with Brandon, that force main may have to be upgraded as well. We don't know if it'll handle additional flow. That's something the engineers will have to tell us. Until we have a calculation, We don't really speculate on what the flow is. They will provide a flow, we'll take it to our engineer, and there's only so much flow a size pipe can take. So pump station is the pump, and it pushes it through a pipe. That may have to be upgraded as well. We don't know until we get the calculations. Just want to put that on record.
Does that also apply to water mains if they're not large enough to supply?
No. Water is, it's 8-inch water line on both ends. It's a loop
Okay.
system. It will be, when we did Destination Park, we ran an 8-inch line to Tuck Road. So they would be required to loop Highway 20 and Tuck Road into a loop system that would have dual feeds.
So just to make sure I understand from a layman and a that's not my area, the supply line to go back, not the supply, but the line that pushes it back to the pump, to the plant, might be too small, and they might have to upgrade that size?
Not too small, it could be at capacity until we have what their GPM flow would be.
Okay,
There's a calculation that says how much a pipe can take.
okay,
We know what we currently have and what additional it could be. Not, sometimes it is, sometimes it's not.
okay. But if that needed to be upgraded, y'all would do that as well?
How far is the plant?
That line about 1.5 miles. I mean, just
Yeah,
guessing.
we would participate in that.
60 miles.
No, we can't do that. Just kidding.
Okay,
Is that-
thank you.
It flows gravity to Ray Road, I believe, correct? It goes force main from the plant or to the pump station to the gravity here through Mr. Garrett's, not Garrett.
Okay, that's all the
Anyway.
questions I had. Thank you. I think it's your turn now.
Is that the plant off of Leeburg, Danny, that you're talking about? That seems more than 1.5 miles, but maybe
Well-
you go through the woods or something. I mean, as far as going,
Yeah,
you
the
know,
force main
driving.
is
and
small, but
seems-
it goes to a gravity line, which is larger, and then it flows gravity. But it's
Okay.
pressurized from the pump to the gravity, and it dumps into a manhole.
So all of that pipe from the subdivision or the PUV would have to be replaced all the way to the pump?
Possibly,
Possibly
if
to
it
the
has
pump
to,
station.
yes.
Don't
What about
borrow
the
trouble,
water-
Miss Patty.
What about
okay?
the stress on the water lines? What does this increased water do? And would the increased water, where does it go? What pipes is the increased water going to go? Is it going through Main Street or?
The
does it
increased
go-
water?
Yeah.
Well, it currently has, I mean, it's pressurized. It doesn't increase or decrease it with more, it's currently has a static pressure. It stays constant. We would just actually make it better by looping it. So you have dead lines and they dead, so they dead end, but when you loop them, you create more pressure.
So it doesn't put any more stress on our infrastructure, some places that's quite old already.
Correct. I mean, I'm no engineer, but yes, that's correct.
Is that correct, Brandon? Okay. Do you have a computational sheet, Brandon, that can tell us, you know, if you go out there, how many gallons you anticipate flowing and all that kind of stuff? Yes. Oh, okay. I don't think, did y'all get one? I don't think I got one. Okay, that would be great if you don't mind. I don't know if y'all want a copy, but if you can just send me one, that'd be great. Thanks. Just before I forget, Shane, I got an email, and I think you've already addressed it, but I don't want to let it go. This citizen said I'm just going to read it because I want to be precise. Yes. Did everybody get one?
I got one, but I think it's addressed on number 9.
I think so too.
Yeah, please ask it. I didn't. Thank you.
If Green River Builders are offering the owner at Tom Smith Road, I think we discussed that, the fence, the 8 to 10 foot fence, why can't the homeowners of Foxbury Commons get one too? I think your stipulation, your additional stipulation is adding that. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, let me add to that too. When I drove by your street the other day, so, and I want to clarify, does this include everything, all the homes that back up to the property? I couldn't tell on the drawing where the fence stops.
So the way that we worded that condition was that it would be a privacy fence, and it would run, if your question was, how does the fence relate to the Foxbury Commons, Fox Run, Fox Chase, the Fox subdivisions, we would run a privacy fence. I think we agreed to 6 foot or 8 foot tall at the discretion of council, but we would run that along that common boundary line of where the subdivisions go. We would want to stop it definitely before we started getting into stream buffers so that we didn't encroach into those type of areas. But we think we can make that run along that common property boundary line And the way that we worded the condition was that we could place it on the buffer side, so the inside of the buffer, right? So in that case, what you do there is there's opportunity to save a little bit of vegetation on the property line. So if we have to install a fence on the property line, practically that means you gotta basically, unless it's cleared already, run a skid steer down that property line. If there's trees in the way, they come down. But we have to do a 30-foot buffer already, so you have property line and then the 30-foot buffer, and then we would run the fence on the inside of that buffer. So that condition language allows us to do that. That's why it's worded that way.
So you're going basically the length of the buffer,
The,
right here?
yeah, I think there'll be, I'm trying not to use I don't always use $10 words. They will be coterminous. They will stop at the same point because the buffer dictates, is there because of those subdivisions, and we'll put the fence along that same property line where those subdivisions are.
So it will protect, in essence, all the homes?
Yes,
that
ma'am,
are
of
face. Okay.
Of that, I think they're called, at least on the Gwinnett County GIS, they have subdivision labels, and there's two right there. One of them is, and I don't know if the naming is different now, but one of them says Fox Run, one of them says Fox Chase.
Okay, yeah, that was mentioned, the two different
Or
names.
Foxbury Commons and Fox Chase. Sorry, I've confused myself. The GIS indicates one of those is called Foxbury Commons, the other one is called Fox Chase. We would run the fence along the common boundary line of the subject property and both of those subdivisions,
Okay,
if that makes sense.
yeah, it does, and I think that would please some of the people that were concerned, I hope.
Yeah.
I don't know anything else you could do, but maybe there is some.
Yes, ma'am.
GDOT, where are you on GDOT?
I think we reached out again. I don't know that we've heard back from them.
Who are you reaching out to?
So the CFO is married, she's a lady, is married to a partner of ours, and I'm trying to get the person to get in touch with, because it's a black hole at GDOT, especially if we don't have a rezoned viable project. He indicated to me, with the existing curb cut, there's a really good chance they'll let us have an entrance there because it's there, especially with a median, one way in, one way out. So we're confident we'll have that. But it's the chicken or the egg. We got to have it rezoned to get it approved. They won't indicate whether or not we can have it, but they said if you have one, it's been there for years, odds are you'll get to keep it.
I might be able to help you with the GDOT, getting in touch with somebody. You can pull up GDOT, literally, and you can look for the project on Highway 20, Conyers Road, and that will give you the project manager's name and phone number. That's probably the best person for you to get in touch with, because he's the one that answered a whole bunch of questions I had once upon a time. Not about your property, but something else. So that may help you.
Yes, ma'am. I think we've been trying to contact that person, and then I think GDOT has regions and region directors. I
They
think we're
do.
trying to get it
They do.
everywhere. You're more important than us, so you get calls back quicker than we do. But we are trying to we are pushing for that.
Did you ask about our project?
No, I didn't even know y'all then, but I probably will, simply because I want to know, and I think it's important to know.
That's a big entrance for us.
It's a big issue for me personally, because I don't know what the GDOT's going to do, and until I know what GDOT's going to do,
Right.
it may alter your plans.
But
We don't know.
historically, if you have a curb cut, they let you keep a curb cut, right? I know on 78, they won't let anybody get a new one, but if you have one, you can keep it.
My only thing is the realignment of Tuck Road to Sharon Church. What is that going to entail? Because they're not lined up now.
That's right.
So what property are they, I don't know, are they going to condemn property? Is it going to be your property, their property? I don't know. There's just a lot of,
Yes, ma'am. We've tried to account for that as best we can, and our site plan, actually, I think what the engineer did was they were able to get I think it's called a CAD file, and they were able to get that computer drawing of some version of that roundabout and put it into their design program, because we've got that roundabout on this site plan. The area to the south across the new alignment of Tuck Road, we just have designated as open space right now. We had prior concepts where we had commercial area designated there, but we do have that accounted for, at least on the design. What we've also done on the site plan is we have some green, you know, where we've been the entire time designing this thing is we've always been over the minimum on open space. We've had open space to spare. And so we've got along that corner where the roundabout is, we have some strips and some areas of green and open space. So we've got some flexibility. So what that means is that if the GDOT project shifts, or they decide they want a little wider, or they need to do X, Y, or Z, we've got some room built in to accommodate those, you know, GDOT revisions, excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know too if that's gonna complicate, while they're widening 20, is that gonna complicate your, I don't know if it complicates your construction or not, how y'all work it, you know, together. I just think there's some questions that just need to be asked, you know?
Yes, ma'am. There's definite coordination that will occur. Unfortunately, this is not trying to throw GDOT under the bus.
Go ahead.
I think it's another one of those things where this is just a hypothetical, right? This is a proposed development, and so a lot of times, whether it's big corporations or even GDOT, you know, they're using taxpayer dollars, and they, I think, feel like they are stewards of those, and sometimes we wish maybe they were better stewards of it. But if they were to spend $100,000 and X man hours studying something that never happened, I think they just wait for projects to be a little bit further down the road,
Could
further
be.
into permitting,
Could be.
approved for zoning, so that they're not just hypotheticals, it's an actual something to deal with before they really meaningfully engage.
Okay, I'll try, and I'll let you know if I find out anything, of course.
Yes, ma'am. And we'll-
But that, for some reason, that's a concern of mine.
Yes, ma'am.
Going down just the PUV code, I guess is what we call this ordinance, there is a historic home sitting there. We discussed that last time, and you said you thought they were going to move it. What's the status of that?
So the family, and Ross will correct me if I'm wrong here, the contract specifically provides that the family will retain ownership of those structures. And so they're theirs. We don't get to decide what happens to them. I don't know what they're going to do, but I know that they own those. And so I don't know why you would, this is me getting into somebody else's head in a contract, but I don't know why I would stipulate in a contract that I decide what happens with structures if I don't have a plan for them. But I'm not privy to that information. I just don't know.
So you can't do anything with it? I mean,
Per the contract, like, in
Okay.
order to enter into a contract to buy the property, one of those provisions was the family
Okay.
owns those structures and decides what happens to them. So we sort of never were able to control the fate of those as soon as the contract got signed.
So if they decide to leave it, you build around it? How does that work?
Yeah, I think, right, we're hoping that I'll just speak candidly, I think I would expect them to move it. They haven't told me what they're gonna do with it, but it's you know, I think we don't necessarily, as the developer, have plans for it, specific plans for any structures.
So if they don't move it, it says right here, you must respect historic context on the property, that being historic. So in my interpretation, which could be wrong because it doesn't give examples and there's no law to go back to, but it says you must respect the historic content. So if they don't move it, then I think that would mean you have to build around it or buy it from me and I'll move in.
How does it qualify? Is there a qualification?
No, that's the problem. See, I don't know, Robbie may know.
Well, it said it was established in 1865, that
Yeah,
home.
but-
So that, to me, that's automatically makes it historical.
But I think
I think
he's
the
saying
farm, I
what's
don't
the
know if the
context
house was there
of
the whole time. I
historic
don't know.
context.
Yes, ma'am, to your point, I think the code does address that historical context, and so I'll just put it this way, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck. I think where there are gray areas in the code, the council has discretion to make them explicit in zoning conditions. And so, you know, it's our hope that the family, the way that they negotiated the contract was because they wanted those structures and they've got something that they want to do with them. To the extent that's an unknown that council's uncomfortable with, I think a zoning condition could be crafted to explicitly establish what will happen with it.
So we could say, I don't know if I'm the only one uncomfortable with moving or tearing down or whatever you might choose to do to an 1865 home.
So you're saying you want to make a condition of
Yes,
zoning
I'm
that if the
looking at
family
Lisa, but she
leaves the
probably doesn't know I'm
home?
looking at Lisa.
Are you looking at Lisa or are you looking at me?
Lisa, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Because she would be the one to make the condition. If that suits other council members, I think it should be conditioned that the house either remains there intact or is moved.
I don't think so. That's not our business.
It is in the PUV.
But
mean,
is
y'all wrote
is it
the
a
PUD,
stated
I didn't.
historical house? I mean,
Huh?
is it on the
It
historical
says-
register?
Robbie, is it on historical record?
If it's not
It
on the
doesn't say
historical,
it has to be on the historical
Well, but-
register. It
but-
just says historic context.
but that would be open to interpretation. I don't think that the council should be involved in telling a private citizen what they have to do with their property.
Then why write it in this PUV? I didn't write this PUV, y'all did.
You asked who would support it, and I wouldn't, that's all.
Would y'all support? I don't want Lisa to do all this work and then, it not be supported.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Patty. I don't think I could support that either.
Okay.
It's their property for them to do what they want to do.
Okay. Brandon's
I don't know what their
nodding his
plans
head.
are with the home, but it's not my choice, it's not my decision to tell them what to do with their home and structure.
Okay. So that would be the vote, I think, right? 3. Bill would probably agree. Melanie probably won't. 4-2. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says 4-2. The trees, are y'all clear cutting?
I think there probably will be, large-scale grading operations. The code has phasing requirements. We've got to do, we can't do more than a certain amount, and that's one of the variances that we requested here, but the code does have those phasing requirements, so that being the case, however, you would likely want to grade this site all at once, just to be efficient in that operation and not have to get out there and do big grading jobs more than once if you can help it. Obviously the, stream buffers have state and local protection, so we wouldn't be able to do grading in those stream buffer areas. But I think the rest of the site likely, would have, a grading operation to bring it leveled in order to accomplish the site plan.
And then you'll go back and put trees? Okay, because I think you have to, according to this, some measure of tree.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And there are code requirements on that, on the landscaping.
Yeah,
I think the
okay.
open space
That's what I thought.
has requirements there. And that's all, that's part of the placemaking from our perspective too, is it just, a moonscape is not a type of place that people want to be in, so we don't want it to look like that. So I think we've got, landscaping that would be installed on the property around the green space. I think there's some of those green areas along where the roundabout is, there's an opportunity for some landscaping there to soften the commercial from the right-of-way. But there are, I don't know them offhand, I've got the code here, but there are landscaping requirements in the
Okay,
code.
yeah, okay, I agree. The green space, that will also have trees or no trees?
So a lot of it, especially on the east side, will really remain mostly undisturbed. So
Okay.
looking at the site plan, the top right-hand side of the site plan, we, committed to doing a walking trail over there, but there's really no need to do land disturbance over there. So, not being flippant, but it costs money to cut down trees and move dirt, so if we can leave it, we'll just leave it. So you'd have, and that also provides a little bit of a separation from us and the commercial, so, we like that aspect of it too. But the open space would include, per code, some landscaping. We'd probably do some screen trees. There could be an option, if we do in between where the townhomes and the single-family detached are, we may have some sort of fencing or landscaping to kind of just have some separation between those, similar to like in a house. Some people like the open floor plan, some people like having a demarcation when you're going from one room to a different room, having sort of those pods, everything's connected and walkable, but it still has some separation. So there would be landscaping, throughout, especially in some of those, strategic areas.
Okay. I hate to do this, but I am completely confused on this square footage of the lot and all this, the buildable lot area.
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean and why do we need it?
Yep. So the PUV really creates a two-step process for, when you're doing the math, right? What the site will accommodate. The first is the land use mix. And so the
Okay.
PUV code dictates a land use mix. And it is a maximum of 45% single-family detached residential, a maximum of 15% for townhomes.
Okay.
And then a maximum of 20% for the commercial. That's 80%, and then it provides that a minimum of 20% of the property will be open space. So for purposes of the land use mix calculations, you draw those lines, and we've used colors here, you paint in those colors on every square foot of dirt. Every square foot of dirt on the property gets a designation as.
You mean of the 20, the 40, the?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Exactly. So there's
Okay.
4 land use types: single-family detached, townhomes, commercial, open space. Every square foot of dirt on the property gets designated as one of those 4.
Okay.
Then, for the single-family residential, for example, once we've designated that land use mix, which I think it's 80-something, 83 acres, something like that, then you have to determine what's the yield, what's the maximum unit count on that allocated land. And what the code tells us to do is to subtract infrastructure. And so that means
And they
street.
tell you what it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
read that.
The code does. It tells us what to exclude: street, right of way, and then, I've got
Detention
my code,
pond.
detention ponds. So that area, call it infrastructure, has to be deducted from overall land area. You do the math, and the resulting acreage is, call it the buildable lot area. So for
Okay.
residential, the single-family detached, we've got 87.93 acres of residential land.
Now, which map are you on? Because I'm seeing 7354.
So, yep, so on that site plan, up in that chart, yeah, this will be helpful to point at it here. So we've got proposed tract, a total of 199.05.
Okay, I see it, see where you are now.
The single-family residential, the white, is this 87.93 acres. That's the
Okay.
overall land use mixed area. That is 44.17% of the property. So
Okay.
that checks the
That
box.
checks the
for
45.
Land use mix. Exactly.
Got it?
Now, in order to do the density calculations, we have to subtract the infrastructure. So we subtract that roads and right-of-way, the detention ponds over here, so we don't have one of those to deduct. And then, once you subtract the infrastructure, that's where you get to that 73.54 acres.
Where do we find that figure, the infrastructure figure?
The engineer has to draw shapes in their design program and calculate the area and then subtract it. So that's what they're doing here, is that residential right-of-way, that 14.39 acres.
Oh, up above, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay,
So
got it.
they left a little note there of what that
Got
figure
it.
was.
Okay, so the 12.82 and the 14.39 will both be subtracted or part
So
of it?
that's detention pond plus stream buffer. That 12.82 includes, all the detention pond and all the stream buffer. That 12.82, as I understand the math, is just sort of a placeholder in the table for the engineer to know the total stream buffer and the total detention pond. Because our
Okay.
detention pond has partial allocations in townhome, partial allocations in open space. Some of these stream buffers have an allocation, that's residential, this one's open space. So what you have to do is you take your residential land area, 87.93, you subtract infrastructure, that gets us to 73.54. Then you apply the maximum density of 3.1 to that number, and that gets to the maximum unit count of 228. And we're at 227.
And that is considered the term buildable lot area. So you're trying to get to what on the buildable lot area? Why do you need that, I think is my question.
Right, so So first, that number, that 227, that was us trying to stick to that land use mix that we showed the planning commission, 227 single-family detached, 158 townhomes. Really, in the PUV, there's a lot of flexibility about what gets designated as what. As long as you hit your land use mix, then you can really draw the lines wherever you want.
Okay.
So we didn't want to
Okay.
get cute with where the lines are drawn. We wanted to keep those, obviously the actual lot area is going to be part of that residential buildable area.
Okay.
'Cause that's where the houses are going. But really, it's, once you've satisfied the land use mix, then where the art comes in is the engineer, the land planner, navigating other code requirements of what has to be excluded for open space, what only gets counted up to 50% of the open space, what gets discounted from the residential area, to make those lines work. And for us, it was to keep it at that unit count,
Okay.
within reason. And so that's why, in between us and Destination Park, you've wound up with that's called residential, that's part of the residential land use. It'll end up being about 150-foot wide buffer, basically.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But it's part of that residential land use area because we had to designate it somewhere, right? It's part of that residential use. And same thing with the townhomes. We had to designate a certain area of townhomes per the code. And there's not a lot of guidance about what has to be, designated as what, but we just tried to make it, intuitive. Like, where's the townhome pod? That's colored blue. Where are the pods of single-family detached homes? Those are colored white. Does it meet the land use mix requirements? Check, yes, move on to step 2. Apply the density. Does the math work to where we're hitting 227 and 158? Yes.
Okay.
That's how I think we were looking at it. But then there's like the math side, and then there's the art side, because you want it to make sense, you want it to be connected, you want everything to go around, and all of that to say, not that I'm complaining, but it's a really tight land use mix, because you've got maximums on 3 of the 4 land use components, and then a minimum on the other, so there's not a lot of play in between those. It keeps it pretty rigid, and you can see that in our numbers. We're pretty tight to what the code sets out. Our biggest difference is we're light on townhomes and we're heavy on open space.
Did y'all have to change this computation every time you changed? That just seems like, woo.
It's one of those, it's kind of similar. It's like a micro version of Walmart or GDOT talking to us, where we kind of focused on the first step. Once we got the math to work on step 1, then we did step 2, right? But yeah, every time we had to do a redesign, part of, the quality control is, does the math work in the code? Step 1, does the math work per code?
And then you probably got Ravi doing the same math in his office, verifying that your math is correct.
That's right, and that's one thing. As an aside, it's definitely been a two-way street of communication. It's not
Yeah,
like I just send off site plans and don't hear anything about it. I mean, it has been very quick responsiveness from the city. Well, have you looked at this? Did you think about that? They've been all over us. I don't mind saying that.
Robbie's good to help us too. One last question that always seems to come up with these big developments, especially when they're clear cut and we get rain, mud ends up in somebody's yard over and over again. Is there any way we can this might be a Danny question, can we stipulate that if that happens, the builder is responsible, or because the citizens end up having to really go to battle over it, and I just hate to see those things happening over and over again.
I think legally, all we can do is what the law states we can do for
What
enforcement.
does it state?
Well, it depends on.
I mean, it states all sorts of, we are the issuing authority when it comes to soil, water conservation, as well as to not only stormwater management, land disturbance permits. So, we have enforcement authority as it relates to building sites. Your code office has enforcement authority as it relates to building sites, while a land disturbance permit or a NEPDES permit is currently in place. So it would be on your code office to address those enforcement issues. I don't think it needs, the regulations are already there. You don't need an additional condition as part of this zoning action, is my point.
Well, I don't, I understand that, but we've had quite a few citizens, and Danny knows this already, that have complained and complained. We had one lady, it was going on, I think, 2 years. So if the stipulations are already there, then how is the decision made as to whose fault that is?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. As to
Well,
whose
this
fault-
one lady faulted the city for, I think it was 1.5 years or 2. I forget exactly how long, and it doesn't really matter. But she went round and round. Her yard was flooding every time it rained, and she was her creek was blamed because it wasn't cleaned out, and then the developer, it just went on and on and on. So if there are stipulations or code enforcement can do something about it, how clear cut is that?
Well, I think that the answer is that your code office or your planning and development office has the ability to address enforcement issues as it relates to BMP's best management practices for land disturbing activities. But also it does start to get in between the gray line of a civil issue between neighboring property owners, not just your city. Your city has standards that they need to enforce, and when those standards are enforced, it doesn't mean that every square inch of water or silt or whatever is captured, and it becomes a civil issue at that point, meaning outside the four corners of the city's obligations or responsibilities.
So we can cite them for having an issue with their plan and make them fix that, but I can't tell them to go to your house and make you whole. That comes in the court of law. That's what the issue that you're referring to is, look at it this way, the police may cite you for wrecking and you're hitting Ann and you be at fault, but they can't make you fix her car. It goes to a civil. So back to that is if they had a pond that failed, we would go in and say, your pond failed, bring it up to compliance, but I cannot make him go clean up somebody's yard. That would get into the civil issue.
Civil being suit.
Yes, court law. The judge would have to say, you will fix it, and this is how will you do it. That's not outside of us. Our municipal judge has a set what he can and can't do.
Okay.
So
Thank you,
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
You good, Patty?
Yes.
Okay, we skipped over you. Do you have anything?
I just have one question for Shane. Shane, share with me what relief is being sought on your major variance?
Yes, sir. So the variance that we requested relates to the phasing requirement in the code. That's that, in shorthand, you have to do 25% at a time among all of those land uses. We have asked council to consider a variance removing those obligations due to, we would submit to council as a hardship caused by that GDOT widening project where the commercial in a lot of respects. Now, there's some pods of commercial, like the one more internal to the site that we would have access to, more unencumbered access to, that are less likely or are just not going to be affected by that GDOT project. But some of those other commercial areas closer to the roundabout, closer to Highway 20, the timing could be dictated by that GDOT project. So we've asked for relief from that requirement in order to be able to develop and build sort of per the market, and we'd ask the council to consider that.
Are you asking for a year?
So,
In
you know,
your
I think,
rebuttal, I remember reading 20 years till it might be commercially feasible.
so that's an aspect of it too. And so that, in that regard, we did, try to address some of those market pressures in the letter of intent when we described the need for that variance. An economic hardship is not a hardship under Loganville's, code and what the variance criteria are. We share that information when it's applicable because we think it makes a difference and we want council to be aware of that. That GDOT project, could take a few years. And so I think there's a situation where I'd have to consult with my client on exact timing, and maybe we could, reserve maybe the final 25% until a certain percentage of the commercials, fully constructed or something like that. I think there'd be a way to craft a middle ground there, but the relief would be to allow us to sort of build in the normal context. Like, for example, if it were just trying to rezone that corner to HC and the balance, just some residential zoning.
That's what I thought, so thank you for clarifying.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Okay. So Danny, did you want to talk on what we're calling the math versus the ordinance and staff recommendation?
Yeah, I think Shane addressed the math a little bit earlier today, but I just want to ask you this, Shane, on back to what the mayor asked you. You're required to put 38,500 of commercial, but you have 288,000. Could you do the 38,000 since it would be outside of GDOT's potential right of way? Is that possible?
We could do that, yeah.
And
That's,
then just for the council, you know, if you add these percentages up, there is a small correction that they need to make, and we've made them aware. If you see the commercial, it's 20.27, the maximum is 20%. They got 20.27, so they would have to fix that. Shane and Robbie and I have been talking about this. But yeah, everything else is pretty close, I think, is addressed. My biggest concern was the 9,000, which I've already, or you already addressed, and then the 288,000 square foot of commercial that's provided. But the ordinance only requires 38,500 based on 385 living units.
that's right.
Just make sure y'all are aware of that as well.
Okay, and the last thing, Skip, I think we're going into executive session later. Would you consider having the public to speak before we go into executive session in case someone wants to speak about this?
That's my plan.
Okay, thank you. That's all we have.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lisa.
You probably have it memorized by now.
No, we're not going close.
Thank you, Shane and
We're
Ross.
just talking about
Yes, ma'am.
going
Thank you.
executive session now. We're not. Thank you, Shane. Is that everything you got, Lisa?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then we'll move into Finance, Human Resources, and Hunsinger.
Mr. Mayor, I have no actual items.
Thank you. And we'll go into Public Safety Committee meeting report. And that's going to be
Me?
Melanie Long.
I have two items. I have one from the police department and one from our fire department, so I'll let Chief Lowry know. Is Chief Lowry here? No. Yeah, you want to go first, Chief Johnson? Chief Johnson just gonna, he found out recently, we've been just, on the hazard mitigation plan, we were just doing it strictly from Walton County, but I'll let him just, give us a brief synopsis.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good to see y'all. So that is correct. For years, we were told that we could only participate in one county mitigation plan because it is a way that we are able to recover federal money for natural disasters and different things that may occur. Recently, we were told, since our city is unique and we are split between two counties, that we can be on both. What this does, basically, it allows us, if an event is declared in Gwinnett County and they seek federal reimbursement funds, it allows us to attach to that. It doesn't guarantee us reimbursement, but it does make that as an option for us. So basically, all this is asking, and this is more than just for the fire department. This could cover stormwater damage or public works, streets and highways, just any kind of event that would affect our city. We would be eligible to try to recoup some of that. So basically, all this is asking permission for the mayor to sign on behalf of the city of Loganville to participate in Gwinnett County's hazard mitigation plan.
All right, and there's no financial obligation for us to participate in this. It's
No,
just
ma'am.
signing up and getting it done.
Yes, ma'am.
Can we put that on consent,
It's the
everybody?
resolution, Mayor. It's the
Yeah,
resolution.
I apologize. It is a resolution for the city too.
Okay, y'all okay with putting that on consent? Or do you
Yeah.
have discussion about it?
Do we
I'm
vote on
looking
it?
at you.
I'm asking, do we vote on
I
it
don't
since it's a
know.
resolution?
No, if we put it on consent
It can go on the
agenda,
consent agenda, it's fine.
Okay, consent.
Y'all good with that?
yes.
Okay. And then, that's all. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Chief Lowry, you were gonna talk about our software and the issues we've had with that and the solution you have found?
Yes, ma'am, and to just be as brief as possible about the current issues that we have with our software, it's pretty much failed us at almost every level, to the point I think Kyle will agree, and Greg, I've been really close to handwriting incident reports, which tells you how bad it has been. This was the company that we're currently with. We were told that the product that we had, which we were satisfied with, was being archived. So in order to stay, we basically had to go to this. And it's been an ongoing issue that's really an untenable situation. And we've been looking at various software vendors for well over a year. We've had vendors come in, we've gone to other places and looked at what they have, and what we have settled on and what we're proposing is to swap our software vendor, and this is a combination software, although it's two different products between both the police department and the municipal court. And this software does have interoperability, so all of our, for example, like all of our citations now are done by computer, other than code enforcement violations are still handwritten. All of our criminal trespass issues, all of that is done in the mobiles that they have in their car. And by having software that works together, it's essentially a one-button transfer from our system directly into the court system. So it saves them having to take a citation and manually re-enter it, which is, we basically have to have that. It also provides us one of the things, just from my perspective, and assistant chief, that the current software was supposed to provide from startup and still does not do, is the ability to do real-time crime mapping. So in other words, the software that we're proposing, any one of the officers or me or anybody else will be able to pull it up, and if they want to see, or I want to see, every burglary that's occurred in the city of Loganville for the last month, 6 months, year, 2 years, whatever it might be, it's basically you check a box and it puts it on a real-time map. That's really essential for us, personnel-wise, for deciding it. It's how we help decide where we're going to concentrate patrols and things like that. And sometimes that's why we have said, so we don't see you in our neighborhoods, because we're going by where the crime is at. And I don't have the ability to do that now. So this software that we're proposing, that we would like authority for the mayor to sign this agreement so we can get in line, is basically right now they're telling us it's 90 to 120 days, and that will also depend, as you know, Kyle has some pretty major software projects already going, software and hardware projects already going, so that will play into it as well. But it's the exact same cost that we have right now per month, and they have agreed they're going to basically eat a little over $8,000 in startup cost. All of our MDTs, all of the in-car systems that allow us to communicate, all of that will work perfectly with this new system. Won't be any thing that has to be changed as far as that goes. And it's going down there. Kyle asked this question, I think I addressed it in the memo. In a lot of cases with this, any kind of software upgrade, you look at data migration into your new software. So the position that we're in over the last, I don't know, 18 years or a little more, we've had several versions of software. As things progress, the department grows, the city grows, all those types of things, that Kyle's having to maintain and keep those going in the background, so to speak, to maintain that data. What he wants to do and what he's already had preliminary discussions with the CEO of this software company, who is also the main developer, is having a standalone database that will bring all of those into one place that will be accessible to all of us, the officers in their cars, all that kind of thing, but without migrating data that may be corrupted into a brand-new system. I think, and Kyle thinks, and Kerry, the developer, thinks that's a really good way to go. But there's some issues. You're talking about several different vendors, and he's confident he can make that happen. So we're not including that as part of this package. That will be basically a one-time cost that we'll come back to you when we have that number. But my plan at this point is that one-time data conversion and migration, we plan to cover the cost of that from our federal drug fund, and we have sufficient funds available to more than do that.
I only had one question.
Okay?
It's the same cost as basically we're paying now, the $5,500 a
Yes,
month. And
Yes,
it said they were going to honor that price for 36 months. Do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
have any idea what it's going to jump to at the end of that 36 months?
No, there's a smaller fee, which is the 500, that's the data migrate, that allows data to come in, which also allows the state patrol to import data directly to our municipal court too. That has a built-in, and it's in there, it goes up, I think it's 5% in that, but now on the $500, it's not a great deal of money. It will probably be something we'll have to, at the end of the 36 months, we'll have to look at, but that's as far out as they would guarantee it.
Okay, thank you. Do y'all have any questions? Okay.
Sounds like they're offering you a great deal.
They are, they really are, pretty much.
Are we going to get anything back from Justice One for the failure?
Well, we kind of did that already. I had to use early on, and I couldn't tell you, and I didn't think to look exactly when they did it or for how long, but to be perfectly honest with you, I had to use my drill instructor voice with their CEO, and he credited us $1,500 a month for, I think, 6 or 8 months. That's not enough in my mind. But I can tell you this, and Greg can attest, we have talked to a lot of police departments and sheriff's offices over the last year and a half probably. And every single agency that we're talked to, they feel the same way we do. It's probably, I don't see how they're going to survive, which that doesn't really make a difference to me, but I've got to have something that works for the Loganville Police Department.
Y'all have questions? Y'all are good? Can we put that on consent? Y'all okay with that? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And don't forget the Donut Dash Saturday. Are we going to see you running?
I'm not going to be running this year, but I'm going to be cheering loud for everybody.
Okay.
Me too.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Melanie. We'll move now to Public Utilities Transportation. In the absence of Bill Duvall, Danny, I guess we're going to ask you to bring up those issues.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you, the first one is the 2024 ARPA paving contract approval. We held a bid back in September of 18th. We had several bids come in. They're in the packet. The lowest bid was the Scruggs Group, which is formerly known as Sunbelt Paving. They came in with a bid plus an alternate bid. We added some extra roads. That was for $844,050. We have a little bit of extra ARPA money I'd like to go ahead and expense. Talk with Bill about this, use more additional funds. So I'm requesting not to exceed $980,000, and with that, we can pave some extra roads. And those roads are in your packet. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Which are the extra roads, Danny? Do you know? Do you have?
Yes, let me find them on here. Toller Shoals View.
Okay.
We have.
me just ask, because it may not matter, actually.
Victoria Circle,
Can you add and subtract, can you change the roads that you're gonna cover, you know, because I went back and tried to match them up with the list that we had initially. And some were added, some were taken away.
Yeah.
That's okay?
No, the
big
only thing
deal?
that was taken away was Confederate Place, because it was paved 2 years ago.
Okay.
It got on there accidentally. So we're gonna replace it with, Victoria Circle, Peach Place, and there's, I think Magnolia Court was already on the list. And then we added, Total Show's View, because it was not on the list.
Okay, yep.
And that would be the only road in that entire subdivision not paved, and those people were not probably happy
Okay,
if we
so
left
there's
one
no,
road.
there's not an issue there at
Yeah,
all. I
so
didn't
we
know if you
added
could mix and
those 3
match.
roads, and then we added a little additional in case we hit any issues as far as more milling or patching we have to do.
Okay,
There is a total reconstruction of Toller Drive cul-de-sac, which is a full depth, takes it all the way down to the dirt. We won't know until we get it up, the extent, but we do have a good estimate, so I put a little room in there for that. So not to exceed amount is $980,000.
okay.
Have we worked with the Scruggs company before?
We've done some smaller stuff with them. Sunbelt, Sunbelt Paving has bid on a lot of stuff. They are DOT certified. But far as paving, large roads, I don't believe we have. Their contract came in so cheap because they have, they make their own asphalt. That was one of the reasons. But the unit price was, I believe, $135, and we ain't seen below $150 in 8 years, I don't think. So that's why it came in a little bit lower than we expected. We had engineered at $866, and it came in at $844.
That's great. Is everybody okay with consent agenda?
Yeah, but let me just say, I live on Village View Circle, and I had nothing to do with the who chose what for what street to
So,
get repaved.
yeah, so this is done all by computer.
It is.
Highways and streets, engineers, it has nothing to do with any elected official.
Until I got this packet
Current or
tonight, I had no idea
previous.
that my street was on
So-
here.
Aren't you glad?
Not really. Oh, really? 'Cause
And again, that's the second large contract we've had in probably 6 or 8 months. And we're no longer kicking the can down the road. Now we're paving the streets. Hopefully, we can have another one in July, huh? Another budget year? August.
January, we'll go out for LMIG next, be next. He's already
Okay.
got the application, but yeah, we should get that funding December.
We need more ARPA.
ARPA's done.
Yep, I know.
It's done. Have to have it expense by end of this year.
Yep.
Okay,
We'll
and then
probably
you've
come back
got
to you
one other
next
item?
month for a little bit more money for ARPA, and then we'll be done, officially done with it.
Yes,
I'd like that consent if you're okay with it.
yes.
The other item, Brandon's here, I'll let him speak on that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're asking for this spreader truck. We currently have a 2005 model truck that has taken some beating over the years. I guess just the biosolids that they've sat on that truck and on the frame for so long, just over the course of 20 years, it started to rust the frame on this truck, and it's really not safe for the road. So that's why we're asking for this new truck. It does say state contract on there. That's my fault. I originally told Danny it would be, but the trucks are going to take too long to do a state contract for us to get them. It's kind of the history with vehicles these days. So they do have a truck on the lot that they can go ahead and have a truck bed put on and have it to us in 6 weeks.
The only
It's
que-
cheaper, right?
oh.
Cheap,
Yeah, they're discounting it
yeah.
for the state contract.
The only question I had, Brandon, is I see that you're using ARPA funds, and so I just want to clarify, because I thought we had earmarked all the ARPA funds, so are we just, okay, so there was
Yeah.
some still left?
Yeah, yes, we still have, even if y'all, I don't know if we, I think we didn't count for this, didn't we, Naomi? Yeah, we still have currently 150, so after this, we'll be
Okay.
25. More than likely, we'll come back to you next
I was
month.
just wondering if we
Yeah,
were, like we were taking some
Yeah.
ARPA money that we had earmarked somewhere else and using
No.
it, but no, that, you still had the money.
Yeah, we still have the
Okay,
money,
thank you.
so, we'll probably come back to y'all next month with another trailer for them, so.
Okay, consent agenda? Everybody okay with that? Okay. Danny, is it about time for you to have another closeout on used products that we've got?
Yep.
Coming up soon?
Hopefully next month.
Good, we need another $100,000 at least. Did real well. Okay? Now we'll move to Public Works Facilities. Patty Wolf.
I don't have any business, but I do want to make people aware of what happened on when we had that storm come, it was supposed to have the storm come in and all the high winds and this, that, and the other. I don't think people realize what the city does I didn't, let me put it like that, what they did to prepare for that storm. They started, Danny, was it a couple days before the storm was even headed this way? Y'all started getting prepped, you were having meetings.
About a week.
You were having meetings and y'all were getting the fuel and you were getting all the schedules of the people lined up and who was gonna work here. Some of our team worked from starting at 1 in the morning, Danny being one, I think, to 7. The other ones came in at 7. So they had put in like 3 full days' work, I would say, easily, just to get prepared, not to mention once the storm got here. I had no idea. I just thought they showed up. So I just wanted to acknowledge their hard work, Danny and the entire team. And even the cherry on top was Danny and Chief. Chief came in early too, I understand, and both of them agreed to go check on our little Harold Tribble to make sure there wasn't a tree across his house in the middle of the night. So that was just very special to me. So I just wanted you to know we have some really super people that were out there trying to protect us all while we were sleeping. So thank you.
There's also a lot of coordination between the county and all
Yep.
the other
We had
municipalities.
lots of meetings and stuff.
It's a big project. Thank God we were spared.
Yes.
Could have been right down our throat just as much as it could have been Ashland. Okay, we'll move now to economic development. Brandon Whitfield.
Thank you, Skip. The only thing I really have tonight is really more, I guess, of a discussion. A couple months ago, we talked, when I went up there to the podium, we talked about Jeff Speck's 7 rules for downtown. And y'all gave us go-ahead for me and Paul to start working on this in our code section for the overlay district. And after we did the 7 rules for downtown, we kind of looked through a lot of our code section, and we could have fixed some things, but it would require going through like ZPL and a bunch of other stuff. And since the city owns a lot of the land, and there's a few other factors in there, but really after we did the 7 rules, we thought this would help with the city staff a lot. It's kind of like, it would help guide the staff for the downtown growth we would like to see. I'm going to use y'all as example, so please don't. It will be kind of like, this will help us capture the feel of the downtown we want instead of just building it by the code that we have. So this would be something that could be used by city staff or someone coming in and being like, okay, before we design this, we have these guidelines that the city wants us to kind of meet. So this will help us get better design when it comes to when it does get built in downtown. But we also thought of a couple things about this, because going back and I rewatched the meeting again from the time before, I know Patty brought up some questions about hiring a company and how expensive that was going to be and stuff like that. Now, I know I've been harping on this a little while. I know Skip has been too, about 254 Main. And I know we don't really want to just turn that over to the Development Authority or somebody until we have a plan in place, so they kind of have a better idea on what to go after, instead of just giving them carte blanche and going and getting bids. So we were thinking about maybe kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. Getting a company to come in, maybe Sizemore, maybe another company that's like Sizemore, and do us a more detailed plan just on that one project, on that one site.
Just 254.
Just 254 Main. And say, you know, we could give them just some clear guidelines, like, hey, we want 2 buildings that match the downtown feel that we have. And, you know, kind of let them go to work. And then in doing that, they could look through our code and see what we would kind of have to change to make that a reality. for example, they might come back to us and say, we need y'all to adjust y'all's, if this is what y'all want, and they all come back with a plan that we all like or something, they could then say, this is what needs to be changed in your code to get this. Y'all need to have y'all's setbacks taken down to this. Or y'all gonna need to change y'all's landscape bufferings to downtown to this. Stuff like that. So then we could, since we own the land, we could then rezone the land, stuff like that, before we even ship it out to get bids from the DDA, and we could give them a guiding principle. Say, hey, give us something close to this. So they could have bids come in, and I'm not saying they would go out and find that exact piece, but something that we would all like to see downtown, what our citizens would like to see downtown. Now, I just kind of want to open that up for discussion to see what y'all's thoughts on that was. And with these 7 rules, this is just something, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, this is something that we just add into as a resolution, so it would go out, like I said, to help guys, so we wouldn't have to go through the whole process. But when it comes to, if we do go with Sizemore, one of them, to go through that project, we would at that point have to go in and change stuff. But we'd have a professional who deals with this every day tell us, this is what we got, if y'all want this small town feel, y'all want this downtown, this is what it's gonna take in y'all's code to get that.
Well, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, I think I remember when we were having the discussion you're talking about, and I think, Paul, if I'm not mistaken, at that time, you mentioned there were several ways to do things, but I don't remember the abbreviation you used, a request for a proposal or a request for, wouldn't that kind of be the same thing, where these people say, oh, we say, like, we have 254 Main Street, and then we wouldn't be spending any money because these guys are going to come in and say, hey, we propose that you build this, that, and the other. Is that not a way that we could look at doing this, and maybe on the cheap, by putting out a request? Is there something that you can do that way?
No. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, yes and no. You would do RFQs or RFPs, requests for qualification, requests for proposals. And if you focused it in on just 254 Main, we want to do just an infill, build to suit, basically, project, then I would suggest that you do an RFQ through Danny's office or through Robbie's office that says, we want you to give us scopes and ideas, but it's going to come with a price tag to it. They say that we'll develop a concept plan, we'll develop, and it may be all the way to what we call CD, to full construction documents. I probably wouldn't suggest that. I would just suggest instead just a good concept plan that gets into details, but that's still going to have a cost component to it. But compared to saying, hey, I think this is what Brandon's talking about, compared to saying, hey, we just want to go ahead and rewrite a brand new downtown overlay or what we call a plug-in code for downtown only, like a plug-in character-based code, instead of going that full bore, which can be quite costly as an overall project, not just in terms of dollar figures, but in terms of time commitment and the effort to onboard that. You could take 254 Main and just say, hey, let's do an RFQ for just this. Give us an idea. And so, yes, you get some general free input because you're going to put out the RFQ and you're going to get some general feedback. But the end product is going to be something that's going to come down the pipeline with some level of cost related to it.
Right, I get that, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, just taking all these developers and all these engineers out there and we show them this piece of property, they're gonna think of something that nobody in this room's thought of before.
100%.
So
which
that's
is
what
the-
I'm
which is the
saying, like, if
value
you
of it.
put that out there, then we look at that and go, God, man, we never thought about that. Hey, now let's look at writing our code or whatever we need to do to make that happen. I'm just, rather than
100%.
hiring a company, a consultant or whatever, where we're just a monthly fee and we're just.
No, it would be I would see it as a one-time project. I would see it as a one-time project. You put the RFQ out there that says.
No, but I'm talking about, I thought you were saying like hire a company to start looking, so maybe I misunderstood what you wanted to do.
No, he
It's just
was
site
suggesting
specific.
exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's suggesting exactly what you're thinking, is we put out an RFQ that says, hey, the city owns this dirt, and we define what dirt it is. I assume just 254 Main. We want basically an infill revitalization project idea proposed. Give us your best. and give us the price to end up with the proper deliverable.
Right, but actually putting out the request, that doesn't cost us anything to put that request out there.
It does not. And
Is,
then we
then later, if we look at these things and then we want to pursue one, that's when we start having cost associated with that.
Correct.
And we also see what it would take for us on our end for that to happen.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, but you're not going to get the full finished idea.
No, I get that,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
get that. We're just getting ideas.
Yeah, you're getting proposals for, we'll come out to Loganville, you know, it'd be a mini charrette most likely. We'll come out to Loganville, we're gonna dream, we're gonna use our ideas, our experience, our background, and we're going to give you a finished product of a deliverable of a concept plan, some renderings, those sort of things, and that project is gonna cost X. And that's what you get out of the RFQs or the RFP process.
They're not gonna give you any ideas for free. They say this is what maybe could do, but you're not gonna see renderings. That'll come with a price.
Okay. And then, so that we're all on the same page, when we talk about 254 Main Street, we are only talking about that corner. We're not talking about going all the way down to Bobby Boss. What does 254 entail?
I'll go all the way down Bobby Boss,
That's preferred.
because it is 2 lots. One's already zoned, I believe, commercial business district, and one is zoned residential. I don't want to give too many details to, I want them to do their best work. And they, like I said, they might come up with stuff we've never thought of. But that could be something that could still mainly, probably could stay residential if they do cottages or something down that line. But that's something we won't know if we don't ask the question. Let's look at the whole property.
Are we gonna give them a overall design of what we're looking for? Like the hometown feel stuff?
Yeah, I would say we keep it real simple, like, hey, let's keep, something to the same design that we kind of already have in Main Street, or maybe do something, like, I just don't want to get too specific, because then that would limit their creativity. You see, because I wouldn't like to box them into an idea to where they couldn't give us a plan we never thought of before. You see, like, I know it's kind of hard, but it'd be something like, if we get it back and we don't like it, then that's something different. But say they do come back with something that we've never seen before, and we like it, we would never have thought to include that up front, For example,
I get it. I just think my philosophy, based on the people I've spoken to who have experience, which you have too, is we tell the developer what we want, and he either goes or doesn't. I don't know
Yeah, but this
how that
isn't the
works.
developer.
This is the step before
This isn't
that.
your developer. This
Who
is
is
your,
this?
this is your design professional.
Yeah, so
This is a
the
design
step before
professional that
that.
works for you, that
So he's
simple
not
words.
gonna build anything.
He's gonna dream up the dream, and he's going to give you what it looks like and how it should be built. And then from there, then you can,
Then we
if
go
y'all
out.
choose, go the next step where you have intergovernmental agreements and you send it over to the DDA, and they go out with requests for proposals on who would build it.
And if we like his design, then we pay him for the rendering, or how does he make any money?
Up front, like, we would
Yeah.
pick a firm, and
You
they
would pick a firm. You would pick a firm to do this
Like
job.
Sizemore say?
Be Sizemore,
Size-
They're gonna charge,
TSW.
they're gonna
There's a lot
charge
of
for the
them out there.
concept.
And we ask them to provide us with whatever the RF thing.
We can
The-
go about
the-
it different ways. I know what we've done, RFQs in the past, RFPs.
Yeah, it's just like putting it out for bid, but you're putting it out to professionals. You're not, when you're choosing professional services, you don't have to choose the lowest bidder in government work. You choose who provides the best options for the best product. So it's an RFP, it's also called an RFQ. You don't have to get stuck on the words, but it's basically putting it out there that we're looking for somebody, a design professional, to do a concept plan for a particular piece of dirt for the city.
Much like we got from Sizemore for $24,000, that
Was the whole
did us a
piece.
concept plan for the entire city, correct?
But this
Or
would just
no?
be site-specific. So we
Right.
go into a lot more, like, probably detail on that one site.
They didn't do anything for 254 Main.
They did.
Y'all did something, the
The
LDA,
The
didn't
LDA
you?
did something.
How, you don't have, that's no good anymore?
No, I mean, we could always look at that, but.
I just see us keep spending money, and I don't see us coming up
Well,
with
it's a
anything.
lot less than $250,000 or $500,000.
Well, it depends on how it turns
site-specific.
out, I think, That's my opinion, but it's not $500,000. But I think it depends on
No, I
how
mean-
there all turns out, but I'm not even there.
Based on some of
what we're
our
discussing
stuff
right
in the
now.
past, I would think, what, $20,000 to $30,000? Maybe. And if that's what it costs to give us more as, what we could actually get on that site to move forward with something, I think that's
But
money
we're
well
not,
spent.
you're not asking to make those decisions tonight, we're asking about the resolution. Do we want to?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. What's your ask? Because it was the 7 resolutions, and now we're talking about size.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now
well-
we're designing Main Street.
No,
Yeah.
it was, I will say it was supposed to just be like a discussion thing, not so much just to vote on this. But it is something like, if y'all do want to vote on this, and if we want to vote on this, I think that's great. I think this would definitely help. And this might be something that we could give to that group and kind of help them along. But
Yeah, and I get the gist of it. I get the gist of it. We just got it today, and I haven't had time to sit down and read it, so I would prefer if we can vote on
oh,
it.
no, that's fine. Yeah, we can vote on it.
I'd
whenever.
like to table it. I've not read it at all, and I think it deserves some.
How long is it? Is it? how many
Studying
pages
and,
is-
well, you
I
know,
know.
for me, I want to
But
read
we wouldn't
each
vote
one.
on it tonight. He's
Page
talking about
and a
voting on it
half.
Thursday, but you're saying put just, I mean, there's
Yeah,
no
we could-
hurry. You want to put it on
we
the
don't need
November
it.
agenda and
We don't
then,
need it right now.
I have a
Well-
question, Brandon.
Yes.
So how does a resolution go in the order of a resolution versus an ordinance? So this is a guideline,
Yes,
just as this is our idea as a city, what we want to see?
correct.
So this really has no legal
Correct.
merit?
It provides guidance.
Okay.
It does not provide specific metrics to your zoning ordinance, because in order for it to do that, it would have to go through the ZPL process. So basically, this is a guiding document that says, these are the ideas that we espouse as being important to how our downtown should develop. And then from there, the concept is, well, do we just take 254 as a first project, sort of, or do we start the process of going towards a design professional to redo a full plug-in code, like we've talked about before, that is quite expensive. But this is just a guidance document. You have a Main Street overlay district already in place, and you certainly can do tweaks, and you can do cleanups, and you can do edits to it, but my encouragement to you is that until you retain a design professional who's going to dig into the very deep weeds on doing that right, you're just going to be tweaking and fine-tuning this particular thing. I think a drive-through should or shouldn't be here, or I think that the frontage of buildings should only be 18 feet, not 24 feet. And candidly, as simply as I can say it, you're getting over everybody's head that's sitting up here on the days, meaning I'm not a city planner. I've got a lot of background in it, working in this world. None of y'all are city planners, urban designers, and those sort of things. And so this is just a policy statement to say what's important to y'all as a downtown revitalization sort of movement gets underway. But to get it right, you're going to have to dig deep into that code to get that code to do exactly what you want to do. And you haven't had any projects build, from my understanding, I've only been here 18 months, you haven't had any projects build under your Main Street overlay district yet. And so before they do, the concept is, do you need to clean up that code?
Do we have to do the resolution before we
You don't have to do
invite
anything.
Sizemore or whoever we're going to? I mean, is that part of the process?
You don't have to do anything. It's
Okay.
just, if you as a policy board want to espouse this policy, then that's why the resolution's been drafted accordingly.
So Brandon, do you feel it needs to be done right now? And if so, why?
My only hesitation with waiting is we've waited and waited a lot.
Yes, we have.
And with the holidays coming up, I don't really see us getting a lot of design people actually starting. But say this is good and we want to vote this in or not vote this in, now that we've had the discussion about what me and Paul talked about kind of going into this and what is kind of needed, we could put on the agenda whenever, sometime before the end of the holidays, that we could give Danny our, you know, the right to go and get a request for qualifications. So during the holidays, that could be done, so at the start of the year, January, February, we could actually get going on something instead of waiting till then, and then taking 2 or 3 months to do it, and then going
But we
further
can
out.
do that without the the reason I keep going back to the resolution, I have not read it, and
I
I
mean, it's a
just, I don't
page and
feel
a half.
comfortable
It's a
voting
big
on
read.
anything
Well, that's what I was
I've not
saying. I
read.
haven't read it either, but I could be prepared for Thursday night.
Yeah, I think a Thursday night should give
It
us
seems
plenty
like
of
a simple
time to read
document.
it.
Well, I think the resolution is not a be-all, end-all
No,
document.
no,
It's
it's
not
just,
etched in
It's kind of
stone.
like
it's a
saying,
guideline.
we want to build a neighborhood, and we think that nice houses in a neighborhood should have a soaking tub and a deck and a playground. I mean, it's very broad.
Yeah.
So I think if you agree with what this states, then it's just a directional arrow. That's it.
Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, just real briefly, I don't want to beat this dead horse. There have been several others that have been beaten this evening already. But this document came before y'all in its, what I'll call generic form, from spec that Brandon had gotten in a prior conference. So y'all have seen the basics of it, but Brandon and I calibrated it, and again, that's why it's a guiding document. We didn't, I'm not a land planner or city planner, calibrated it to Loganville as best that we could.
We made
to-
it Loganville specific.
because the first versions that are written of it sort of are much more urban in nature, and so we dropped out a lot of the urban elements. So this document's been floating around sort of in y'all's universe for 2 or 3 months. The specifically edited version, cleaned up version, is new to last week, I guess it is, when we finished it up. But there's no material change, there's nothing, and again, it's a guiding document, but y'all can do with it as you please.
I
If you
think it's
have
a
the
good,
votes,
I think it's a
Brandon, I'm not
good
opposed
step.
if you want to vote. I mean, I'm not opposed if you've got the votes.
No, I mean, I
that's
think
up
we
to
could
you.
wait till Thursday. If y'all have any questions, we could answer them, maybe discuss it Thursday and then vote then. I'm not saying it has to be tonight. I just don't want to keep pushing it down the road kind of deal.
Okay, and we'll leave that off the consent agenda so we can have whatever discussion we need.
On Thursday. I'm good with that.
Okay? Very good. Anything else, Brandon?
That's all I have. All the events and stuff will be discussed at
Thursday.
the next meeting.
Okay, very good. Moving now to Danny Roberts, City Manager's Report.
Spoke already enough. Before you have the readoption of the ethics resolution, got any questions? Christie here to answer those. She handles that. With that also, by the end of this month, I'll need your picks for ethics. They expire end of this month. Mayor, you have 3. Each of y'all have 1, so you can keep them same. I think we put in the packet who currently is on it.
You did.
So you can contact, we do have their phone numbers. I didn't publish them, but I do have whatever contact I had for them, I have. So if you need them, I can give them to you. And y'all can just let me know by, they expire at the end of this month.
Can I ask for one clarification?
Sure.
Member number 8, who is that?
It's Tommy E.
I know. Who is that? Apparently.
Oh, you know what?
Tom
I deleted
Myers?
when I deleted his phone number, I probably deleted it too much.
Who
I have
is
to
that?
go-
Who?
I don't know. I had to go look at the last name.
Well, it's Skip's pick. Who is that, Skip?
That's Tommy Armstrong.
Yeah. Tommy
Okay.
Armstrong.
He runs a business in
Oh, it's a
postage.
female?
Female.
Okay,
That was probably the email that was attached, and I deleted the wrong one.
okay. I was like,
I did that on purpose, see if anybody would catch it, you passed.
Thank you.
But yeah, we, Christie, correct me if I'm wrong, every 2 years we update this, or 4 years for the resolution, right? It was, the code of ethics was 2020, I believe, 2020, so it, just certifies that we're a code of ethics, and that's in there in your packet as well.
What's the purpose of this, Christie? What advantage do we have, or do we have one?
I mean, it's just a policy that you say, okay, we're gonna conduct our business and ourselves ethically, according to, I mean, it's a standard. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time that we have readopted it. And the ordinance is a standard ordinance that was recommended by GMA that we've just adopted and we've continued to re-adopt. Just basically saying that we will conduct ourselves in an ethical manner, we won't do, you know, unethical things. It's just a way to kind of hold everybody accountable to what they do.
And if we don't adopt it, do we get knocked over the head by GMA or?
I mean, no, but you cannot claim to be a certified city of ethics.
Okay, that works for me.
So how does this work for Patty and I since we were newly elected? Am I Jay or am I Linda Dodd?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Just
matter?
get one pick.
Okay.
All right,
Which one do you want, Dave? Just kidding.
Both.
so the resolution
Audience.
could be consent, if you wish, or y'all can vote
I'd
on
like to
Thursday.
vote.
I'm sorry? Vote?
If I can't, I mean, I'm not good with putting it on consent. I don't know if I have that right or not.
You
Doesn't matter to
absolutely
me.
do it. If you
Oh,
don't want to
okay.
consent, we'll
Your
vote
resolution?
Thursday.
Is it vote, okay.
Oh, this.
The other one is just a little background. This is kind of more of a discussion, so we're not asking for no approval for Thursday night, but Kyle had to come up here and help me with this. So the mayor has been asking about updating the signs on both ends of the 78 for quite some time. We looked at doing some different options. Some people like Rotary or Lions or Masonic lodges may want to contribute, put a little sign, contribute to the sign of the cost. We looked at that, but we do have in the budget some money for 2 electric signs, electronic signs. So Kyle and I's thought was maybe we put one on each end of 78. We currently have one at CS Floyd that has to be replaced. It's got to the point where Kyle cannot keep repairing it. He's requested completely change that sign out to this new company, and I figured if we're going to do that, maybe we put one on 78 near the local police department, have 2 signs on 78 that, you know, get our message out. Those signs are not cheap. Just a sign alone, I think we budgeted a little over $60,000. Of course, that would have to be some stonework. We'd have to put the sign in, but we would have to get quotes for that. But we didn't want to go get quotes on something that if you didn't find this an avenue you want to go down. So that's more of a discussion. Kind of what do y'all want to see as a city council? We can upgrade the signs, leave the signs alone.
That original,
we wanna do
that
what
original request came from the
told to
Rotary
do.
Club.
Rotary Club, I thought.
Well, what I wanted to ask is, if I'm not mistaken, and it may have been before I got on council, but the old sign ordinance, lock, stock, and barrel can't have a digital sign. Is that correct?
I had to look at the ordinance, I'm not sure.
Okay, so the city can have the digital sign, I mean, I'm fine
there
with that
digital
because
signs?
it relays more information and
You
a
can't have
more,
them? Yeah.
so a business can have a digital sign now?
Yeah, I thought you could. You just could, there are some limits to it, but like
Okay,
Maxi Price has one. I mean,
There
there's
was
lot
a
of people with
time,
digital
there was a
signs.
time when you couldn't have an LED sign.
right, that's
There
what,
was a
an
time.
LED sign, that's,
Yes,
yeah, that's
but it
what I'm at,
changed.
so.
Yeah, it
The
has
ordinance was
changed.
changed, I don't know what it is
Okay.
either, but I know it was changed, under Bill.
Yeah.
Bill Jones changed it, I think.
Okay. I mean, I like them,
council
they
changed.
relay more information, I mean, and-
So
We
Melanie,
personally-
get you a sign.
hey, you wanna see one over there? Cause y'all wouldn't like what it said.
Well, it'd be fun. Hey.
It would be that.
We
So-
prefer electric sign, digital sign, but I'll let Kyle speak.
So the original plan and what we were trying to plan for this year was to replace the sign that's out front of City Hall that we replace all the manual letters on. We were gonna replace it and get a sign that fit into what was already there. So there was no stonework or anything that needed to be done. And according to the sign company, if it ever needed to be moved because of the DOT project, the sign could be rebuilt and that sign could be moved away from the road, wherever it needed to go, or wherever on the property. We budgeted to do that this year, to replace that sign, and we were trying to also replace the sign at CS Floyd, so they'd be matching with the same company, and when you update one, it updates both. We budgeted for the 2 signs, and then it came up, you know, the discussion about trying to maybe put one at the entrance to the city on both ends of 78. That's what you said, right, earlier? Yes. So the entrance to the city, the problem is, the way we planned it already, we only have these 2 locations. So you can either shut down the CS Floyd sign and do away with it. We only have 2 signs, in other words, because the sign is 2-sided. You could do a single-sided sign at the entrance to the city, but everybody that's leaving may or may not have seen a sign while they were in town. It kind of gets, you know.
I think it'd be very appropriate to leave the one at CS Floyd, since that's a lot of stonework that we've already done. You've got a monument sign out by Legacy Bank that's lit up at night, that's sufficient, and then put the other one down on the Monroe entrance to Loganville.
A two-sided sign by the high school, that sign.
What kind of warranty did it, you said the one at CS Floyd's no longer, you can't keep repairing that. So what is a new sign, how long is it warranted for?
The sign at CS Floyd had a 5-year warranty on it. We're out of warranty on it. We're out of warranty now. I'd have to look at the actual dates, but I know we've been working with them to get parts replaced. Each of those little LED panels are $500 a piece, and I think there's 30-something of them on each side, but they don't make them anymore. So the sign's like just under 10 years old. So we went back and forth with the sign company a whole bunch about it only being 10 years old, and now you're not making the parts. Well, according to them, the sign company we were using, the sign wasn't old, but it wasn't, it was at the end of its life when we bought it. You know what I mean? It was close to the end of that model when we bought it, and then they came out with a new model within a few years. So we kind of hit the end of the overlap, you know what I mean, for the models. So they were kind of like, you know, we see what you're saying, best we can do is offer you a good price on a new sign. And that's kind of
So are
what
the
they
new
did.
signs like latest and greatest, or we're hitting mid on those?
No, this is a brand new design. I say brand new. I mean, it's within the past 3 years. It has a higher resolution, so there's more LEDs. You know, you probably see some around town. They're a lot clearer than ours. They're not as kind of like a broken up image, for lack of a better term. They're not as pixelated. But the problems we have with ours, it's like everything. If you look at it now, it starts on one side, certain panels go out, some of the infrastructure behind the sign goes out, and then if we wait, we'll have someone come out and look at it, and they'll be like, yeah, we can get parts to fix it, and by the time they even get the parts, the other side is doing the same thing, and we're constantly chasing ourselves trying to fix it. The new sign includes unlimited cell service for the life of the sign. It includes 5-year warranty.
And it's in the budget.
What we were currently going to do is in the budget. We planned it according to what they quoted, but in order to do a different pedestal, a different design, there may be stonework and stuff. I'd have to meet with them and get quotes. So that's why that's why Danny said about getting discussion going to find out what y'all wanted to do before we re-quoted and tried to do something different.
I think we're fine to keep the structure at CS Forward.
Yeah, I don't know if we can do a double sign at 78 and Tom Brewer. It may be a single side. It depends on the land we have there.
And the angle of the sign, right?
and the angle,
There's no
so
point in it facing towards the woods.
It may just
so.
be coming in, you come into the city, you'd see it from Monroe side.
Well, that's something you guys will find out.
we
If you
could
can't do it, you can't do it.
Potentially put one at police department and that marquee sign out front there that could possibly be seen leaving the city. I'm not sure, but it's, we just didn't want to get a bunch of quotes for y'all say no. So you kind of give us direction. If you'd like to see that, we'll go ahead and get quotes and get them back to you as soon as possible.
Everybody okay?
I'm okay if everybody else is. I just want to just go out there and say I'm not a big fan of LED or any of those kind of signs. I find them to be a bit tacky, and it doesn't set the right tone, because a lot of the training and stuff is like in Main Streets, you want the hanging signs with lights. You don't want LEDs and stuff that doesn't match all throughout town and looking like a weird strip area. But that's just me. So just know I'm probably not going to vote for any of the signs, but everybody else is okay with it. I mean, that's fine.
I think
That's
only.
just me personally.
Yeah, more towards the CS Floyd, but I don't see the need to add a second.
I don't either. I mean, the one that we have, if you want to get it replaced or whatnot, because it's not working. I agree with what you just said. I mean, I don't like them, but they do convey a lot of information in a short period of time. But to see them, that's why I say when I was asking about the sign ordinance, because you do see them now, and I don't like them either. They're everywhere. And it's, yeah, you're just,
And-
I don't like them either.
And I think they distract drivers, and we have enough problems. But that's my take on them. But I do see the other side of it. It's just, they're not for me.
We'll just
Can,
think,
can,
Well taken. And you may start other people doing it too. I mean, you know, other businesses start a fad.
can you assure us, Kyle, you'll get the least tacky signs that you can possibly get?
I can't assure you of anything, sir.
Is that a fair-
Sorry. Merely getting a contractor to get you prices. That's all I can tell you.
so y'all think about it, let us know Thursday. We can
That's
just
fine.
replace the one and leave them alone, but just, like I said, we don't want, and then also think if you don't want 78, do you want it here at the city hall property? Because that's originally where it was gonna go, but just let us know. Don't need to get a great debate about it now, but
Who changes the sign out in front of City Hall?
I believe events and Brett changed them.
I think Hunter does it.
Honor, events. Mayor, that's all I have. Now I'm gonna
Okay.
let Paul not speak.
He may have a few words to share with us. We'll go to our city attorney, Paul Rosenthal.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing for you this evening in open session. We do have a few executive session items that I need to go over with you.
Okay, very good. We would like to go now, because we are going to be going into executive session very shortly, but we would like to open the floor up to anyone who is here in the public that would like to speak. You have a 5-minute time limit, and the floor is open for anyone who'd like to come up and speak. Ms. Davis, come on up.
I got it. We got it.
Hi, I'm Joyce Davis, 4421 Pecan Street, Loganville. I'm upset about our alley because several years ago, the city put in something on their easement that has to do with the water. You know, and I thought it was a fire hydrant, but it's not. But after they did that, they piled in a bunch of gravel that they put all down the alley, and then they put a bunch of dirt down the alley. Then they sowed grass seed all down the alley. Well, what this did, it raised up the land, and when it rained, the water went into the buildings underneath and into our yard, and we lost a lot of our fruit trees, and we still have problems with it. And I think that the city ought to come back in there and take out what they put in there, because the city didn't own it. And if they do that, then the alley can be useful for whatever whoever gets it can do, you know, with it. So this was a city mistake, and I think they ought to fix it. Just another thing that I want to mention, I donated that antique water bucket that's on the city well. Somebody tried to heist it, I guess, and it's the bottom and the around the bottom around it is not, it's bad. Could the city get a welder or something to solder that back together? I would really appreciate that. It was my mother's, and it's in honor of her. And so that's all I got to say.
I think that's a fair request, don't you, Danny? We'll get that fixed. Thank you for mentioning it.
You want to put on there permanently, like so nobody can mess it?
She can't hear you.
Ms. Davis, do you want that affixed to the well where it cannot be moved? Is that what you're saying?
I donated it, but I don't want it kept big for whatever
She's saying
you
somebody
have to
busted the
do.
bottom out of it.
It should never come off of the
Probably
well.
rusted.
It's for the well.
Fair enough. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Well, with that said, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting. We'll go into executive session.
I had one more thing that I needed to ask him about his thing. The city of ethics resolutions. Do you have a list of those, and are those the ones that are going to be
Reinstated?
Yeah,
Well, they'll have them, give them to me by the end of this month. They don't have them yet.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, we have a motion to go into executive session. We need to adjourn this one, don't we, Paul? We're not doing
Just a
that.
motion to go in executive session.
All right, motion to go into executive session. Second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? second. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, meeting is adjourned.
Well, aren't you supposed to say something about it took no action?